A new report has found Australian prisons are too heavily focused on trying to control the supply of drugs and are failing to provide adequate treatment for drug-addicted inmates.
The Australian National Council on Drugs is calling for a much greater commitment to treating prisoners and more transparency and accountability from prison operators. Gino Vumbaca is the Council's Executive Director and he joins us from Sydney. Good morning to you. What is wrong with trying to stop drugs from getting into jail?
There's nothing wrong with that, Michael. What the Council is saying is that you need to have a balanced approach like we have in the community, where we invest in stopping drugs and the supply of drugs, but also a lot more investment in treating and preventing drug use. We know that prisons, in our prisons, we're going to lock up a lot of people who have a history of drug use, and a proportion of those are injecting drug users. If you're going to do that, the best way to stop reoffending is to focus on treating the underlying problems, which are drug and alcohol, and in some cases mental health problems.
We'll look at the treatment options next, but on the other hand, do you fear that trying to stop drugs from getting into jail is like putting your finger in that dike in the dam? It's never going to happen.
That's right. Look, ideally we'd like to be able to say, you know, you can stop drugs getting into prison, but nowhere in the world are you going to find a prison system that can honestly say there are no drugs in our prisons. The drugs are small, they can be concealed. You have lots of people going in and out of prisons, from staff to contractors to legal people, visitors, kids, grandparents. Unless you're going to have some very draconian measures to actually search every person and full body scan every person, drugs are going to get in. You lock up lots of drug users, there's going to be a market for drug use inside the prisons.
All states and territories have various forms of harm minimisation, Gino Vumbaca. What is best practice? Which state, which territory is doing it best on that front?
Well, unfortunately, that's not quite true, Michael. Not all of them have harm minimisation programs available. No, they don't.
How do those states that don't have it justify not having it?
Don't know. As you said in your intro, that one of the issues we have is about greater scrutiny and accountability and transparency of prisons. I think that the prison systems just have to realise that if you want to evolve into a better system, like we see with health and education, then you need external scrutiny and evaluation and assessment to help you evolve into that better system. If you're closed, and prisons have a culture, and I think it's based on the physical culture as well of being closed, they're reluctant to have external scrutiny and evaluation, and that doesn't help you improve what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing well and where you need to improve, how do you improve? And harm minimisation, harm reduction programs, for instance, we don't have one needle and syringe program in any prison in Australia, despite over 25 years of successful operation in the community, and 9 to 10 countries around the world having operated for over a decade such programs.
What do you attribute that to? Is it politicians pandering to that sometimes elusive law and order vote?
That's probably part of it, yes. And also there's a fear within prisons about introducing a needle and syringe program. Will it cause health and safety concerns? The reality is that we know drugs are being used in prison, drugs are being injected in prison, and there are groups of 10, 15, 20 people sitting around sharing a single syringe on a repeated basis. That's a recipe for disaster in terms of Hep C transmission and HIV.
And finally, you touched on this before, but I believe you had a fair bit of trouble getting all the statistics, all the figures you wanted from various prison systems. Why are those systems being, in your view, so secretive?
Look, we asked the National Drug and Alcohol Research Centre to conduct this work for us, and we worked with them on trying to get over all the hurdles and through all the hoops to try and get the information. We kept running into blocks, either that the information wasn't available or couldn't be provided for public use or review. And I just think it's a culture there about, we know what we're doing and we're suspicious of people coming in trying to assess what we're doing. Look, they may be right, maybe we're not the best credential to do it, that's fine, but every system that's publicly funded like this, and this is a fully taxpayer funded system, needs to be open to scrutiny and have its work assessed for if it's being effective.
Gino Vumbaca from the National Council on Drugs, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thanks, Michael.